Welcome to the Coach's Corner. I'm Coach Matt Dennis, and we're going to take a look at how we can get better as coaches, some team building ideas and activities, as well as some X's and O's that you can put into your program today to make your team better. The concept that I want to cover today is how are we building our program? Now, new coaches, this first topic can be something that it's hard to do, but we've got to be able to draw a line between us being a friend, a buddy, a pal, versus being the coach. As the coach, you control who plays and who doesn't. You control the consequences for things. You control the praise that's given to players. And if you're a buddy to somebody and not to somebody else, one, it just looks bad, but two, you're giving a particular player kind of a false sense of security. Make sure that they know that there's a line that is drawn between you being their coach and you being their friend, and you're their coach. Now, when I first started coaching in high school, this is something that I had to do pretty early on because we had some players who previously had a little bit more control. And so when we're running our offense, they wanted to call their number, their play to get the ball. And I wanted our point guard to do it. So I made it very clear in one of our team meetings before practice that the point guard is the only one who's going to call out a play because he's an extension of me and what I want to do on the floor. The other guys can react to that and do the play, or if they want to call out plays, they can come sit next to me and they can echo what I'm saying. But I was giving control to the point guard. Now, this idea isn't a new idea, but if you have a young point guard or an underclassman and you have a senior who happens to be a better player, you better believe that that senior is going to be in his ear trying to get the ball. There has to be a clear line, and on that day, it was drawn. They knew where the power was coming from, and it was coming from me and how we wanted to operate that team. So it's not anything about liking or disliking. It's the fact that you're the coach and you're making the decisions. The second thing that we want to do is we want to know how we're building our program based upon those players who have left. Are we asking them to come back or not? Some coaches do an alumni game, which is great. But one thing I would make sure that you do is invite those players back and ask them 3 questions so they can present to your team. The first question is, what do you miss about being in high school and about being on the high school team? The second question is, what's different about being a college player and being on a college team? And then the last one is, how is life better? And this doesn't have to do anything with sports. This is just, how is life better as a college student? We want our players to be able to see that college offers something different, that there's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel that they should be looking forward to. Some players have this ingrained in their family dynamic, others don't. So don't take it for granted that everybody believes college is for them or that they're going to be able to go and things will get better, that their situation is going to improve once they get out of high school. So this is something that you can do. They love hearing their peers. They love hearing the stories, and it helps build the program. Now, next thing is, don't be too high on those underclassmen. What I mean by that is you have a player coming up from the middle school and he's a really good player and maybe good enough to play on the varsity team. But I've seen a lot of coaches get burned because they put so much stock in this underclassman is going to be the next best player they've ever had. And it just doesn't work out. The pressure on the kid is either too high, the kid wasn't ready skill-wise, maturity-wise, they weren't ready. So you've got to ask yourself, how has this kid handled adversity and pressure in the past? What's their attitude like? What's their leadership on their current team? And will they be able to exemplify any of that with upperclassmen? What skill do they have? It's a lot different playing against middle school opponents or freshman opponents than it is playing against a varsity player. And lastly is, what is their work ethic? Do you know and can you answer all of these questions? Now, some of them, it does take a little bit of experience, but you have so many questions that either remain a question mark or they can't be totally answered yet. And that's where coaches get themselves in trouble. They get so high on them thinking they have all the ability and all the skill in the world, but they forget about attitude, work ethic, and leadership. And they find that that player really wasn't ready to be moved up, or they weren't ready to handle the amount of responsibility that you were going to give them. So these are 3 ways that we can build our program in the right direction. First, draw a line. Make sure your players know that you're the coach. Second, bring in former players to share their experience. And third, don't get too high on the next best thing. Focus on what you have the tools and the assets that are available to you right now. And if you do bring a kid up, let them develop, let them come into their own without you putting it on them. And that's going to help develop your program over the next several years. Now, let's look real quick at a team building idea. And this isn't an activity that you do. This is a way to get your players thinking about life and what's going on. And it's in a poem. I love to read stories or poems to the guys and go ahead and ask them for some feedback, ask them just to dissect a little bit of it and how it relates to them. Cant is the word that is foe to ambition, an enemy ambushed to shatter your will. Its prey is forever the man with a mission, and bows but to courage and patience and skill. Hate it with hatred that's deep and undying, for once it is welcomed, 'twill break any man. Whatever the goal you're seeking, keep trying, and answer this demon by saying, I can. Oftentimes our players get into situations where I can't, this is impossible, the team's too good, they're too big, they're too strong. We've got to remove that. One way to do that is through something like this. Have them look at this poem, have them read it to each other, have them dissect, pull things out, and then relate it to the court, relate it to how they think about, how they respond, what they say to each other, and how that's going to affect how they play. So just a way that we can do things just a little different off the court to get a better result on the court. Now, the last thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we're looking for new ways to kind of get some action, some things that some other teams haven't seen before. And one of those ways is to implement a pin down. Now, pin downs can happen at any time. They're not anything that new, but they're so effective, and I don't see a lot of high school coaches using them. And here's a simple play, but the concept in general is really what we want to get in the pin down screen. So our one has the ball up top, right here. What we want to do is we want the 4 to pop out, and we're going to get this defense to shift. We're going to have them shift, and as the 4 pops, 1 is going to go ahead and get themselves out of there, and the 4 is going to deliver the ball over to the 2. All right, that's going to force all the defense to shift over to that right side where the 2 is, because we've kind of loaded that side by putting 1 in the corner and having 5 on the block. On this pass back to the 2, our 3 is making a cut down right here. So let's go ahead and take a look at where our players are. Now we've got our 3 is down in this area, our 4 is here, our 2 is going to have the ball, 5 is still on the block, with 1 being right here. What we want to do here is once that 4 makes that pass, the 3 has come down, we're going to pin down right here and get our 4 coming off that screen and make that pass. Now the 2 may have to set it up a little bit, come this way, and then dribble back and make that pass. But we want to make sure that we get that pin down screen from the 4. A great way to teach a pin down is tape the name of the player on the back of their jersey in practice. This is an idea that I took from out of the read and react offense, where it's just a lot of motion, and we're going to try to get pin down screens. So Rick Torbett's the one who came up with this. And we're going to put a piece of tape on there with the player's name on their back. When we can read their name of the defense, we know that we can pin down on them. So if they're looking at us in great help side position, it's not going to be effective. They're going to get around the screen. But if the defense ever turns their back enough where we can see that tape with the name on it, we know if we're on the perimeter, we can go down and we can pin down, and we're going to get something good out of it because the defense isn't ready. So add this into your offense. It's something you can find a lot of great opportunities to score with. So, Coach, look forward to seeing the next Coach's Corner. If you want more information like this, head over to CoachMattDennis.com. Check out the Coaching Academy and the Coaching Library for tons of resources that you can implement for your entire program right now. If you're looking for plays, if you're looking for strategies, defenses, team building ideas, doesn't matter. It's going to be in there for you. Thanks, Coach. I look forward to seeing you at the next Coach's Corner.